Hey everyone, today we're talking about what to expect when buying a home here in Maryland in 2022. Are things settling down? Are they still crazy? What can we expect from the Maryland real estate market? So let's talk about all that and let's get started right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living in Maryland channel where we talk about all things living here in the state of Maryland. So if that's the kind of information you're looking for, then you're definitely in the right place. Make sure to hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified of our new weekly videos here on the channel. And if you ever have any questions about moving to the area, living here in Maryland, feel free to reach out. We get questions all the time from people who are coming to the area, looking to buy a home. We absolutely love it. So however you want to reach out via email, text, or call, we're always available here, and we definitely have your back when moving to the great state of Maryland. All right, number one is going to be a common question that we get from people is asking about new construction versus resale, what to expect from those two, and what might be the better route. So just like anything, it's going to depend, right? It's going to depend on what you're looking for, what your needs may be. But I do want to break this down and just kind of give you some information about both so you can kind of know what to expect there. So for new construction, this is a great way if you are looking to avoid competition. New construction is definitely a good route to go. It's more of a first come, first serve basis. So you're not going to be dealing with multiple offers. You're not going to be dealing with the bidding and all that kind of stuff that we sometimes, have been seeing on the resale side. So that's definitely a great route to go if that's something you're looking to avoid. A couple of the downsides are going to be that it's going to be a more timely process. So, your typical new construction project out here is probably a 6 to 9 month delivery date. So it's something that you're going to have to plan for. It's something that's not going to be super quick process either. So going new construction is definitely, good for certain people depending if they have flexibility on time, right? Because that process is going to be sometimes a moving target. They do their best to do that. So that's something to consider. The other thing with new construction here to specific to Maryland is that depending on where you're looking, there may not be a ton of options. So, Anne Arundel County, certain parts in PG County, you're definitely going to see, your traditional communities, right? Where they're just building, townhomes, single families in a community where you walk in, you can see the model and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to see those in certain areas there, but like for example in Howard County, you're not going to see many communities. They're kind of fairly developed already, and there's just not a lot of actual communities going in. So what you do see more specific to Howard County is you're going to see developers and builders maybe going in and buying maybe a 1 to 2 acre parcel and then subdividing that and building homes in existing older communities. So some people don't really like that, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Depending on where you're looking at, there may be very limited new construction communities. If you go out to Frederick, you're going to see a lot of communities because that's still a highly growth area. There's still a lot of room for growth out there. But, in my experience, Montgomery County, Howard County, you don't see as many, actual communities going in. They're going to be, kind of single lots, within existing communities. And some people don't really want to go that route. So that's something to keep in mind specific to Maryland that I've been noticing over the years. The other thing with new construction is that the price is kind of set, right when you walk in the door. So it's kind of like when you're going car shopping, you look at the window, talk to the salesman, the price is X, and that just kind of is what it is. So there's really not much negotiation room with new construction. So that's something to expect. And then the other thing, it can be very misleading when you're looking online. A lot of times they're going to give you that base price. So if you want to do upgrades, if you want to do things to the home to kind of get it, up and above just that basic standard packages that the builders offer, you're going to be looking at, increasing that sales price pretty significantly. So that's something to keep in mind too with new construction that a lot of times you don't realize until you actually get in front of the salesperson or actually get into the community or the home and you start getting those kind of details. Now, if you're someone with a little quicker of a timetable where you need to be in a home quicker, resale is going to have a lot more flexibility and offer that for you. In Maryland, we're running about 30 to 45 days from contract acceptance between a buyer and a seller to closing keys in hand. So unless a rent back is negotiated, but we're seeing less and less of those as well, then that would be kind of the only exception to that. But for the most part, our contracts, they do default to settlement and the property conveying right their ownership at closing. So in Maryland, we're what's called a wet at the table state, which means when you sign, ownership transfers right then and there. So we're not waiting for recording. There's really no delay process there in that process. So when you sign, you walk out with keys and it's yours. So if you're looking for, maybe a quicker, process, Resale is definitely going to offer that for you here in Maryland. All right, number two is going to be people reaching out and asking, I've heard I may need to waive inspections, appraisal gaps. Is this true? Is this something I'm going to have to do? In general, I will say that the market is definitely settling down. We're seeing less and less of, the crazy bidding, 10 plus offers and that kind of stuff. So, but there are certain price points, there are certain locations where we still are seeing some of that. So that's something. It's going to depend on, kind of where you're buying, what price point you're in. And every situation is a little different, So when the seller is hiring their realtor and they're listing the home, right? Like, are they listing that home at market value? Are they intentionally listing it below market value to generate multiple offers, to generate, a much higher level of activity, which is going to lead to more offers and competition and things of that nature. So things like that are going to vary depending on things like that. But in general, I will say things are cooling down, they're leveling out. And that's been, definitely a blessing for buyers and the whole buyer process. 6 to 9 months ago, it was a completely different ballgame. We were seeing multiple offers on almost every property. And it was definitely crazy out here, just like most parts of the country. So, but in general, that is slowing. So it's been a good thing for buyers, and hopefully that's something that you'll see here a lot more of in 2022. But when you do reach the point of starting to write offers, there's definitely ways that we can structure the offer to make it as strong as possible without having to do certain things like appraisal waivers and gaps and waiving inspections. So depending on the situation, depending on how many offers there are, and the days on market, which is something we're heavily paying attention to, that's going to determine what kind of offer you're going to put forth, and of course, how much you love the home, right? So that would be a thorough conversation that you would have with your realtor, and just kind of discussing, hey, how do we make this as strong as possible to kind of stand out, among the rest. Now, there's a few things that you can do that don't have to cost you a ton of money, and this is something that I like to talk to buyers a lot about, when we're structuring offers, especially if there's not too many offers. So there's things like accommodating the seller in any way that you can in regards to closing dates. So reaching out and having those conversations, getting on the phone and talking to sellers and their agent and finding out when the seller would like to close, because they're more than likely lining up their next move. So if you can accommodate them with that closing date, that's something that doesn't have to cost you much. Maybe if there's a rent back, discussing that, if that's an option that may work for you, especially if people are coming out of state, sometimes rent backs work well for them. So reaching out, finding out if that's an option, if that's a preference on the seller side, and seeing if that's something you can accommodate. Another thing is going to be, having a good quality lender, especially someone that's local, can also, very much help. Because when that seller gets an offer, they're going to be reaching out to the lender, and the lender's not going to be able to give any kind of personal information, but you want that lender to go to bat for you. You want that lender to be someone who's easy to reach, who can communicate on your behalf to the seller and let them know that you have been properly vetted, properly pre-approved, and that you can make it to the closing table. So those kind of conversations go a long way, and you wouldn't believe how many times, when I'm helping sellers sell homes and list homes, where you never hear anything from the lender. I have to call the lender. You don't, you get their voicemail, they don't respond or respond very slowly. So when you have a proactive lender on your side, on your team, reaching out and doing the things that are necessary to get you an offer accepted, that stuff goes a long way. Even if you're not the highest offer on the table, having that communication from the lender is huge, because you wouldn't believe how many times as well that you see financing fall out. Buyers not get the opportunity to get financing after the fact once they're already under contract on a home, because lenders sometimes are not thorough on getting the proper documentation up front. So sellers having that peace of mind up front when they're looking to accept an offer can go a long way. Now, when it comes to inspections here in Maryland, there's a couple options that you have. We are sometimes still seeing people waive inspections altogether, meaning they're not even reserving the right to go in and inspect the home. And I hate having to see buyers do that, but ultimately that's the buyer's choice if that's something that they want to, consider depending on the situation they find themselves in and how much demand the property is that they're making an offer on. But in Maryland, you've got a couple choices when it comes to as is, and then another choice when it comes to inspections. So traditionally, if the market is not super competitive, we have a property inspections addendum, which basically you, the buyer, are telling the seller, Mr. Seller, I reserve the right to do the A, B, and C inspections, and I reserve the right to request repairs, and then repairs are negotiable. So that's the property inspections addendum. And then you've got the as-is addendum. The as-is addendum has two options. So you've got the as-is no inspections, which is what I was just referring to. And then you've got as-is with right to terminate. Now, the right to terminate option is something that I think is a great option for buyers who still, want to be competitive and have a clean offer submitted to the seller. But it gives the buyer the right to do any and all inspections that they want and the unconditional right to terminate within a certain time frame if they are dissatisfied in any capacity with any of the inspections. So this is something where it gives the buyer protection and you still get to do your inspections, but it's cleaner to the seller. So you're kind of telling the seller, look, I'm going to inspect the property and I'm not going to ask for a laundry list of repairs, but you also reserve the right to cancel that contract if there's something deal breaking or if there's something that's, very concerning. So, that's something that I love presenting and kind of having a conversation with buyers about, because as is, when you kind of first hear it, it's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. But there is a form of as is that still gives the buyer a ton of protection. It's something you can consider if you're looking to buy a home here in Maryland and you find yourself in a competitive situation. And last but not least, number 3 is going to be what's the process, especially for people coming out of state. So we're helping a lot of people coming out of state to Maryland here for their job transfers or whatever it may be, moving here to the great state of Maryland. So what does that process look like when you want to buy a home and kind of how to make that transition as smooth as possible? So the first thing that we always try to do is schedule a phone call, a Zoom call, whatever the person is most comfortable with, to go over the Maryland specific home purchasing process, go over some of the details of our state contract, how you're protected as a buyer here in Maryland, where you're a little more at risk, and just kind of have that conversation of what it looks like start to finish and how our contracts are drawn up so you feel comfortable going into the process. And then we're going to talk about, exactly what you're looking for, locations, and kind of come up with a game plan, based on your timeline of how we can, get that process started, when we need to start looking at homes, depending on how quickly homes are selling in the area that you're looking, and kind of get going, started from there. After that, definitely, talking to a lender, seeing what your options are based on, where you want your monthly payment and what that yields to in pre-approval. So we're making sure to look at homes that are kind of within your comfort, in your wheelhouse of where you want your payment. So we're not looking at homes that are going to put you $500 a month over where you're comfortable at. So that's something we want to avoid too. So having that good, thorough conversation with a lender up front and tailoring it around where you want your monthly payment is going to be huge. So we're looking at stuff that's actually, going to put you where you want to be payment wise. And then after that, virtual showings is something we've been doing a ton of. So whether that's, Zoom, FaceTime, I've got them all. So there's probably 5 or 6 of them at this point. Facebook Messenger. So, getting in, looking at the homes, if you're unable to be here, boots in the ground, having the buyer here is obviously going to be my top choice to, looking at homes. But if that's something that's not doable, doing virtual is something that we can 100% do as well. And then kind of walking you through, once you identify a property that you like, based on the competition, based on how long it's been on the home, and based on evaluating similar homes that have sold within the area that you're looking at, and kind of evaluating that, and then coming up with the the terms and conditions as far as price, and structuring that all out, and then getting submitted to the seller, start to finish. That's something that we can help you do, and make that process as smooth as possible. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime, and we'll see you at the next video.